Coming off of the best wildcard weekend in NFL history, a weekend where the 4 games averaged over 30 million viewers per game, all I can feel this morning is disappointment. The 4 games the NFL gave us this past weekend were nothing short of phenomenal. Every game came down to the last possession. You had 2 overtime games. You couldn't ask for more as a fan from what the NFL gave us this weekend. However, I've been disappointed since about 3:30, 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. I'm not going to sit here and say that the no call on the offensive pass interference in overtime in New Orleans is the reason that the Saints lost that game. The truth is, New Orleans deserved to lose that game. I thought the defense showed up to play. The run defense was suspect all day, and the secondary gave up some big plays. But for the most part, the Saints defense kept them in that game because the offense was absolutely dreadful. Drew Brees had one of the worst games in his playoff career. Hell, Sean Payton should have just rolled with Taysom Hill at quarterback. At least he can throw the deep ball accurately. Brees was god-awful. Underthrew Traquan Smith. Resulted in an interception. Had that critical fumble late in the fourth quarter. The Vikings secondary was depleted coming into this game, and Drew Brees failed to take advantage. In his defense, the offensive line spent most of the afternoon on the fucking ground. Andrus Peat should have just stayed his ass on the sideline if he wasn't 100%. And he did not look to be 100%. Both he and Larry Warford were dominated by the Vikings front 4. It was one of the worst performances from the offensive line I've seen in this 3-year run. Bottom line is, Kirk Cousins showed up to play, and Drew Brees didn't. I've got nothing but respect for Drew Brees. I love the guy. I hope he comes back next season. I want to see him get one more Super Bowl ring, and I think he will be back. This Saints team is a very close-knit group. They love playing with each other. So I think Drew Brees will be back next year. But something really bothered me in his post-game press conference. After the Patriots lost to Tennessee Saturday night, I watched the post-game press conference with Bill Belichick and then a bit later Tom Brady. You could see the disappointment on their faces. Just a look of total disgust. Both of them were despondent. There was no smiling, no hee ha ha. They were pissed off. Then I see Drew Brees in his press conference after the game Sunday. And he's smiling, he's laughing, like he didn't have a care in the world. It just didn't sit right with me. It seemed like this loss had little to no effect on him. Didn't bother him at all. Just another game. It seemed like I was more pissed off about the Saints' performance than he was. I was expecting to see a Drew Brees like we saw after the Rams game in the NFC Championship last year. But that's not what we got. You know, I've said it for 4 months, and I'm going to say it again now. The NFL has got to fix this problem with the officiating. Did the non-call on the offensive pass interference cause the Saints to lose the game? No. But it damn sure affected the outcome. In the building that the pass interference review rule came out of, you don't take a fucking look at a game-changing call in overtime. What the fuck is the rule in place for if it's not going to be used? I don't know what was shown on TV, but they're live on the field. The Vikings scored that touchdown in overtime, and the officials ran back to the locker room so fast, you'd think they had strippers from Scores waiting there for them. I don't care what Al Riveron says, who, with each passing week, continues to prove what a dumbass he is. This guy is the problem with the officiating in the NFL. Every time an official makes a mistake, he claims that they get the call right. They didn't take the time to look at that offensive pass interference Sunday. Vikings scored that touchdown, and poof, officials are gone. Everyone in the Superdome was confused. We didn't think the game was over. We were waiting on the call to review. Next thing you know, the players are crossing the field, shaking hands. The game is over. I'm not taking anything away from Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. They deserve to win that game. I don't know what the hell's going on with Alvin Kamara. It seems to me, since his injury, he's afraid to take a hit. Anyway, not taking anything away from the Vikings, but to not even look at that OPI in overtime, in a playoff game, is inexcusable. It can't happen. The NFL also needs to take a look at their overtime rules in the playoffs. For a playoff game to be decided by the flip of a coin isn't right. Yes, the Saints defense should have stopped Minnesota. I get all that. But for Drew Brees to not get the opportunity to touch the field in overtime is bullshit. Regular season games, I get it. But in the playoffs, both teams should have the opportunity to score. One other thing, I saw a lot of hate from so-called Saints fans on Twitter after the game. Get rid of Drew Brees. Get rid of Sean Payton. Trade Alvin Kamara. These guys are trash. It was ridiculous. Sean Payton and Drew Brees revived the city of New Orleans. This place was dead after Katrina in 2005. Without the Saints, who knows where New Orleans would be at today? Did Sean Payton coach a bad game? Absolutely. Abandoned the run completely. Once again, he allowed his ego to get in the way, and he got too cute with his play calling. Alvin Kamara had 7 rushing attempts. Payton never put this team in a position to establish the run. Was Drew Brees god-awful? Yes. But you don't abandon the guys who got you here. The guys on this roster have won 3 straight NFC South titles. We're one bad call away from a Super Bowl last season. This year was the 3rd straight heartbreaking postseason loss on the final play of the game. This roster has bounced back each season. That is not an easy task. Did they play bad yesterday? Yeah. But they've earned the respect that they deserve from this fan base. If you think they should fire Sean Payton and trade half the roster, then get the fuck off the Saints bandwagon. We don't need you. I see a lot of talk about Kirk Cousins supposedly silencing his critics with this wild card playoff win. He certainly outplayed Drew Brees on Sunday. There's no question about it. But this one win doesn't erase a career of struggles in big games. I don't even think Cousins believed they were going to win yesterday. He celebrated this victory like the Vikings had just clinched the NFC Championship, proving the fact that Kirk Cousins has never been in this spot before. When you're making $28 million a year, the expectation is to win games like this. The expectation is to win on Monday Night Football at home against the Packers when home field and a division title are on the line. One big win doesn't erase a career filled with big losses. All right, Behind the Line, episode number 39. I'm your host, KC. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave a 5-star rating on iTunes. Show's probably going to be a bit shorter than usual today. I'm struggling with my voice. I'm tired. It was a long Sunday in New Orleans. I love the city of New Orleans, especially on a game day or during the NBA playoffs. But it's one of those cities where I can spend 1 or 2 days and then I got to get the hell out of there. The party never stops. And at 35 years old, I just don't have it in me to get it up like I did in my 20s. I mentioned Tom Brady and his post-game press conference a second ago. He was asked Saturday night if he was retiring this offseason. He kind of danced around the question for a bit, but then said it was highly unlikely that his career was over. Basically, Tom Brady was saying that he's going to be playing football next year. But I think Saturday night was his last game in a New England Patriots uniform. I don't think that Bill Belichick wants him back. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think Tom Brady wants to be back in New England. He's taken a hometown discount the past several seasons. He doesn't really need the money, but he gave Robert Kraft and the Patriots a deal because he knew they needed money to sign other players, get him some help offensively. And the best they can do is Julian Edelman, a number 2 receiver on most NFL teams. Mohamed Sanu, the number 3 or number 4 receiver from Atlanta. They cut Antonio Brown. They sure as hell could have used him Saturday night. The Patriots scored 0 points in the second half against the Titans at home. When is the last time that's happened? People on Twitter were blaming Tom Brady, but the guy's got no help. His best receiver is Julian Edelman. Drew Brees has no excuse. He's surrounded by weapons. Tom Brady's not. You don't think Tom Brady sees that and gets pissed off about it? I gave this organization a discount, a steal really. I took a pay cut. And the best you can give me is Sony Michel, Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu. Tom Brady is as good as gone in New England. I think the Patriots are about to head into a full rebuild. Bill Belichick, I don't think is going to go anywhere. I think he wants to prove that he can win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. So where does Tom Brady end up next season? There are rumors that he could end up in Cleveland. I highly doubt he goes to the Browns. You fucking kidding me? Tom Brady in Cleveland? He's way too good to end his career in a second-rate organization. What about the Indianapolis Colts? I mentioned last week when I was talking about Phillip Rivers, the Colts are set for a Super Bowl run. All they're missing is a quarterback. How ironic would it be for Tom Brady to end up in Indianapolis, a team that was his biggest rival for years? How about this? The Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones is in win now mode. He isn't getting any younger. Dak Prescott's going to want 35 million, and he's not worth that kind of money. Jerry Jones could go out and sign Tom Brady for $10 to $15 million cheaper. Let's get to Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys real quick. They sure as hell didn't waste any time finding Jason Garrett's replacement. They decided to go with Mike McCarthy, former Green Bay Packers head coach. This whole process was a clusterfuck and just proves how dysfunctional the Dallas Cowboys really are. Last week was a prime example of how not to fire a head coach and hire his replacement. I think Jerry Jones' heart was in the right place, but ultimately, the handling of the situation was disrespectful to Jason Garrett. I never liked him as a head coach, but the guy dedicated himself to the Cowboys for a decade. I feel like he deserved better on his way out. I understand the hiring of Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys wanted someone with head coaching experience at the NFL level. I thought that they would go with a more defensive-minded head coach, which is why they interviewed Marvin Lewis. Lewis is a defensive guy, but his resume isn't all that great. Sure, he led the Bungles to the playoffs 7 times in 16 years. Never won one fucking playoff game. McCarthy has a Super Bowl on his resume. 13 years in Green Bay, 9 playoff appearances, 4 NFC championship games. Hiring him makes sense. For the first time since Bill Parcells, I think Jerry Jones actually made a good hiring decision. McCarthy is used to the pressure of coaching a team with a strong legacy. Green Bay is a franchise that expects to be in the playoffs every season. He has experience developing quarterbacks. I'm actually impressed that Jerry Jones made the decision to hire Mike McCarthy. I was expecting a more flashy hire, something that would make big headlines, someone like an Urban Meyer, who would have been the wrong decision for the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys needed a coach that can teach this team how to win, and that's what they have. More importantly, how to win consistently. Mike McCarthy is 125-77 in his head coaching career. 8 consecutive playoff appearances in Green Bay. The Cowboys needed someone to hold them accountable. Someone to set the tone of the locker room. They needed a fucking leader at head coach. This team in 2019 was in dire need of leadership. Now they've got it. Mike McCarthy doesn't put up with bullshit. That's part of the reason that he and Aaron Rodgers weren't getting along towards the end of his time in Green Bay. Jerry can hog all the spotlight too because Mike McCarthy doesn't want it. For him to be successful, though, Jerry Jones is going to have to stay out of the way. Mike McCarthy doesn't want the spotlight, but he does want control of his team. Will Jerry be able to give up that control? Highly unlikely. Before I get out of here, I wanted to talk briefly about the Bills-Texans game Saturday afternoon. A game that I feel, if the Texans lost, Bill O'Brien would have been fired. He better thank God every night that he has Deshaun Watson, because Bill O'Brien was once again outcoached in a playoff game, mainly in the first half. The Texans looked lost, both offensively and defensively. For the 5th year in a row, he was on the verge of a first-round postseason exit. This happens every year in Houston. Lucky for him, Sean McDermott and Josh Allen proved that this team is not ready for the big stage. When I previewed this game last week, I said the Buffalo Bills were still 1 year away from making noise in the playoffs. The second half of that game Saturday afternoon proves my point. Buffalo was the better team in the first half. They were calling trick plays. Josh Allen had a touchdown reception on a perfectly called play in the first quarter. They were playing loose, built a 16-0 lead, and then it all fell apart. Sean McDermott started coaching this team not to lose instead of coaching to win. The play calling got conservative. The risk-taking was kept to a minimum. Let's just run this clock out and get the hell out of here with a win. When you're going up against J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson, you can't play the game not to lose. J.J. Watt made what I feel was the play of the game. Watson's going to get all the credit for the win. But J.J. Watt made the game-changing play. In the third quarter, Bills are in the red zone. He sacked Josh Allen on 3rd down in a play that gave Houston all the momentum. Held Buffalo to 3 points, kept the Texans within striking distance. For as well as Josh Allen played in the first half, he was equally as bad in the second half. He just wasn't ready. The pressure of the playoffs started to get to him. He had an awful backwards lateral pass on a run. I don't know what the hell he was thinking on that play. It's tough for a veteran quarterback to win a playoff game on the road, much less a second-year starter with no experience. Josh Allen also had an intentional grounding penalty that halted a Bills drive late in the fourth quarter, knocked him out of field goal range. Very next play, 4th and 27, he did the last thing a quarterback can do in that situation. He took a huge sack that gave the Texans the ball in Buffalo territory. It was Josh Allen's fault, but I also blame Sean McDermott for putting him in that situation to begin with. You've got the best defense in the league. Punt the ball. Back Deshaun Watson up deep in his own territory and let your defense close this game out for you. What you don't do is put the game in the hands of your second-year quarterback on 4th and 27 on the road in the playoffs. I'm not sure Bill O'Brien is the right coach in Houston, but Sean McDermott is the right guy in Buffalo. The Bills are going to be dangerous next season. They're my favorites at this point to win the AFC East. This loss will end up being a good thing for this young team. They got some experience in the playoffs. This loss will help them going forward. And by the way, this Bills-Texans game was broadcast on ESPN Saturday afternoon. Can someone at ESPN please get Booger McFarland off the air? I didn't think anyone could be worse in the booth than Jason Witten. But Booger McFarland is the worst color guy in the business. He is absolutely cringe. Playmakers gotta make plays. Well, no fucking shit. Great analysis there, Booger. He made a comment about the Buffalo Bills building this team in a hurry. Really? Last I checked, the Bills hadn't won a playoff game since 1995. Last I checked, Sean McDermott had been building this team since 2017. Bad commentary can ruin the experience. Compare ESPN's broadcast to the CBS broadcast between Tennessee and New England. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo enhance the game. Romo is the best color guy in the business. Then you have Booger McFarland on ESPN with his lame jokes, his asinine comments, oftentimes just stating the obvious. It was absolutely dreadful. All right, that's all for today. I'll be back Friday morning. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes. If there's anything that you guys would like me to cover, leave me a comment in the section below, or you can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Have a good week. I will see you on Friday.